First of all, I would like to very deeply apologize for the negligence in continuing this series. I should have planned it out better and paced it better, but bad Melina. I get distracted, other things come up, and I was just distracted by other things. It's my own fault, my bad. But like I said, I am not giving up on this series. I am going to do all 10, and this episode will be number 6 on my countdown of my top 10 favorite magical girl series. And so number 6 on our installment is the manga Magic Knight Rayearth by Clamp. This was Clamp's first foray into magical girl genre before their big success, Cardcaptor Sakura, which will be on the list shortly. And I wanted to do a proper review of this series because I thought it was a very well done magical girl series. It has some pros and cons with it, but overall I think that it is a very well done series and very has a lot of great stuff that it adds to the magical girl genre. Now, with previous videos, I tried to put in clips from the anime into the video just to kind of balance things out. Well, in this case, I have never actually seen the Magic Knight Rayearth anime because don't really want to. I feel like, just from what I've observed of the anime, and people can correct me if I'm wrong if they've seen the anime, but it just seems like an example of how when some people will take a relatively short manga series, because this is short for a manga series. It's 4 volumes, and they stretch it out to about like 20 something episodes. That just screams filler, screams inconsistent changes, and just from doing my research for doing these videos, I found a lot of changes that were already excessive and inconsistent and didn't really work with the storyline as it should have been done before. So basically that's gonna be a no. So first, kind of some background. So Magical Knight Rayearth wasn't really on my radar as an anime that I was, as a manga, excuse me, that I was gonna be really checking for until I heard about Dark Horse doing all these omnibus editions of the Clamp series and putting them out. And one of them was they were going to put out in addition to, you know, Chobits and Cardcaptor Sakura and Clover, because people were asking for that. I want my wish, please. I know I have all 4 volumes, but I like an omnibus. Come on, guys, work with me. Was this series, and I ordered this 2 Christmases ago, and I really enjoyed it. The first collection of the story was very interesting, and it got very subversive towards the end, but honestly I can say that I think that the second part of this series, which is just called Magic Knight Rayearth 2, is superior, and just the fact that you kind of have to read both of them at the same time to really get the whole idea of what the story's about. And you know, I feel like it handles a lot of problems that you have in certain things about being the savior, what it means to be the hero, and what the meaning of sacrifice is in a larger scale. So first let's talk about the plot. So the plot of the story is that there are 3 young women, Hikaru, Umi, and Fu, and they are on a field trip to go visit Tokyo Tower. And on their field trip, they each separately are enveloped by this bright light, and they are transported into Cephiro, which is the magical land. And there they meet Clef, who is the mage of Cephiro, and he tells them that they are the legendary magic knights, and they have to unleash the Menin, which are like these super robot things, protectors of the realm basically, and help rescue Princess Emerald from the evil high priest Zagato, who has kidnapped her. And because of that, the entire world is going unstable, because in the world of Rayearth, what happens is there is one person who's in charge of keeping the entire land stable. That person is called the Pillar. And the Pillar in this world is Princess Emerald. And when she is removed from her position and being captured with, like, what's happening with Zagato, that is leading to the entire world kind of crumbling. That's the first part. That is this edition of Rayearth. This edition of Rayearth 2, is dealing with the repercussions of what happened in the previous story. So, due to not wanting to tell spoilers, a lot of the stuff about talking with the characters I'm going to split up into non-spoilery things and spoilery things, and I'll label it very clearly. I know this manga has been out for a really long time. That doesn't mean everyone's read it. I mean, some people may be more familiar with the ending of the first chunk of it, and maybe not so much with the latter chunk of it, but I will do my best to make sure everything has a proper spoiler label, so that if you want to skip over something, if you see something that says spoiler at the bottom of it, you know to skip over it until it's clear, and then if everything that doesn't have a spoiler label at the bottom is good for anyone who hasn't read either part yet. So first I'm going to talk about the characters that play a main role in the first chunk of the series. And because in this kind of fantasy there are like a shit ton of characters, I only put it to the characters that I think are important and actually do something to progress the plot. So all the other filler characters are kind of there but then leave, and the love interest, because they're not really that special, they go on. Don't care about them. Bye. So the first person is Hikaru, and she is the leader. She's the de facto heart of the group, and you can tell that she's the leader because she's like the spunky one. You could like, as soon as, first of all, she's on the main cover, and that gives it away. But just as soon as she arrives, she's the first person who's really like, we have a duty, we have a responsibility, we have to go do this. She very much takes the initiative in things, and that's why her element is fire. All her powers and things revolve around fire. And so when they arrive in Cephiro, she's the one who answers the call of duty very quickly, and she is very protective of her friends. She's very loyal and trustworthy. She has a strong sense of what's right and wrong, a strong sense of will. She does a lot of stuff to help her friends and her companions, and she's very much a determinator. She will just plow through and do whatever she thinks is best at that time. The next character is Umi, and she is the most reluctant of the three to answer the call when it first happens. She's richer, higher class. She really wants to get back home to her family and isn't as, she doesn't prioritize what's going on as much as everybody else. Her spells are water-based, whereas Hikaru's spells are fire-based. And I think that of the three characters, Umi gets the best character development because she starts off as the reluctant, posh type of character, and you see her develop slowly this very strong sense of responsibility to this world that she's grown attached to. And I think that it's very poignant to see how she comes to care for these girls and become very attached to them. And I think her emotional shifts are very well illustrated, and she is probably the most, besides Hikaru, but I mean just overall being the most emotional character and really being the one to express how she feels openly and things like that, whereas Hikaru is really just kind of kind. Umi will go through different kind of feelings. Fumi kind of gets a mixed bag. She has the smallest amount of character development, but the biggest sword. Her sword is huge. It is about the size of her length of her body, basically. I don't know how she can carry that around. But her element is earth, and she actually is wind. Yeah, her element is kind of like wind earth type dealy, mostly healing stuff. She doesn't really get the most development out of the three characters, which is disappointing. So she doesn't really have a character arc. She's kind of the most blah character, but she's not a bad character, just more so that her role is to be like the in-between person between Hikaru and Umi, and so she kind of keeps everyone together, is the stable one in this environment of just instability, which is important because when you have someone who's really passionate, someone who's a little bit colder, you need someone who's an intelligent, calm, resourceful figure who can also, for the audience, kind of keep everyone together, keep us updated. And I think that, the only downside to Fu's character is that while you do see her get a little bit more confident, she doesn't have like a really good character arc. Hikaru has a huge character arc, but it's not about growth, it's more about how she views the world. Umi has a character arc in the traditional sense of her developing and being one person at the beginning, a different person at the end, whereas Fu, she kind of remains pretty much like boop, and then straight through. So there isn't enough done with her because there's not enough time spent with her, but she's not horrible. Then there's Clef. He's the sorcerer who helps bring the three main leads into the world. He has a very youthful appearance, but he's about like 571 years old, so you know, looking good, being sharp and stuff. He is kind of like the magical guide, the Giles, who informs them what's going on and keeps them moving about their way. He's just kind of like the bridge between our world and their world. Then there's Makona, who is like the cute plushy thing. You've probably seen the merchandise for it, like a weird bunny thing with a big dot in the center of it and like big floppy ears. You've seen that doll. I know I've seen that doll everywhere when I went to cons and things like that. So like it was more like, oh, that's that thing. That's Makona. And it kind of, it follows the girls around, it helps them, it gives them special stuff when they need it. It's kind of like you, like a little cute thing, or so we're supposed to believe. Precia is the top blacksmith. She's the one who builds the girls their weapons, and their weapons are special because they grow and evolve as they grow. So as they get more powerful, they get more XP. Their weapons just grow XP with them, which is awesome, and I wish it was in an actual game that I played so that I could just have one weapon and just slowly get like a little dagger and all of a sudden it's like huge sword, like yeah, swinging around and everything. So yeah, she is the blacksmith in there. And when I was doing my research, I found out that in the anime, she gets killed off. And then in the sequel to the first part, they bring in her twin. So, I am just like, okay, I didn't know she needed a twin, but thanks for letting me know, anime adaptation. Sometimes I don't know things, and I need to know that I need a twin when no twin existed because you want to kill off character that was alive? What? I don't control this. Then, alright. The three Mashin are the three rune gods, and there is Ceres, which is Umi's Mashin. Then there's Wyndham, that is Fu's, and then Rayearth, which is, wait, no, which is this one, is Hikaru's. They are both machines and alive. They do what the wielders want, but they also are capable of independent thought and action. So they don't necessarily need the knights, but they need the knights in order to be, I guess, activated. And then once they're activated, they can do what they want, but they are still, I think, subject to the control of the three girls. These things are my least favorite part of this manga, because as many of you guys know from my other talks about anime, I hate mecha as a whole. There are individuals I like, of course, you know, Full Metal Panic, what up? Fully Cooley, what up? But as a Evangelion, what up? But as a whole, fuck mecha. Oh, and Mega's XLR, which isn't really an anime, but still boss. Love that. But as a whole, mecha, no. So I hate the machine because they're mecha and they bring this whole series down. Because they're just not necessary. I mean, if all they're just really big robots. That's it. It's, don't like them. Anyway, so let me get back to Emerald and Zagato, who are probably, as a whole, the most important characters in this first season. Now, for the sake of getting everything that people need to know, people who want spoilers and who don't, first I'm going to talk about this basic information about both characters, and then I'm going to put up a little spoiler bar, like I said, label, and as long as you see that up, you know to mute, ignore, scroll over, whatever, that's going to be spoilers. Once that bar is gone, you're in the... Emerald is the pillar of Cephiro. She is currently in Zagato's evil cave cellar. She's kidnapped by Zagato. She effed right now, and she is the one who technically summoned the three girls to the land in order to save the day, per se. Alright, spoilers. Emerald is... Okay, so Emerald's story is basically to show that the pillar system is effed up. So this is how the pillar system works in the manga. In the anime, it's something completely different, and I don't particularly care for it. But in the manga, this is how the pillar system works. One person is chosen to pray for the protection, the tranquility, and the all oneness of Cephiro. Once that person is incapable of doing so, they no longer can fulfill their role. Now what happens with Emerald is that she falls in love with her high priest Zagato. And when she falls in love with Zagato, she is no longer able to pray with her whole heart for the goodness of one thing, because now something else has entered her life that she cares about and she feels love for by herself. So she is the one who puts herself into this kind of self-containment to kind of rid herself with her feelings. Zagato is prompting her to not do this, to ignore the pillar system and to do whatever. And so her conflict is why she brings the knights in. Now she brings the knights in because she cannot kill herself, and no one in the land of Cephiro can kill the pillar because the pillar is the source of all stability. Kind of like the childlike empress in the Neverending Story. That's kind of like what those characters are. And so she summons the magical knights to kill her because she wants to make sure that Cephiro can be saved. Now, once Zagato himself kind of shits the bed and is killed, she kind of has a breakdown emotionally and becomes the final villain for this season. And her death and the emptiness of the pillar system now is what prompts the second season, second book, whatever, of Magic Knight Rayearth. Her story is fascinating, and I'll get more into it when I talk about the themes and the overall narrative of the story, but I feel like her story and what it brings about the idea of self-sacrifice and what it means to give up everything for goodness is just so brilliantly handled, and why I love this manga even though it has some flaws in it. Now let's get to Zagato. Zagato is the main antagonist of this arc. And he is basically set up to be a humongous douchebag. We do not like him. He sends people after the knights to try and get rid of them. He really is the villain of this first part of the narrative. Spoilers. Okay. Zagato is actually in love with Emerald, and he spends this time while she's in captivity to try and persuade her to forsake her duties and leave together so that they can be happy. So everything that he does, the screwed up stuff, is to protect a woman that he very much is in love with. So in that kind of case, he's a very tragic character, but he's still kind of a douche because what he does to one of his minions in the series, I'm just kind of like, yeah, you got emotions, but you still a douchebag, you know? But he's a complex villain. I really like that about his character. Now we're going to talk about some characters from Series 2. Now, because of the nature of this being in 2 sections, this is also going to be spoilered out. If you don't care, just keep trucking right through. But obviously, because this is the second part of the season, there are going to be spoilers to the first part. So do as you will. You see the bar, you know what you're getting into. So first is Lantis. Lantis is Zagato's brother, and he left Cephiro to try and figure out a way to destroy the pillar system in the first place because he saw how destructive that it was to both his brother and the woman that his brother loved. And so when he comes back, he is trying to destroy this system with the information that he's learned, because he's seen how destructive it's been. He sees how the loss of his brother, but everyone is kind of suspicious of him because he's the brother of the guy who tried to take over, you know, the world basically in the eyes of many people. And so a lot of this thing is him trying to fix what he thinks is a wrong in the society that they live in. Then there's Eagle Vision. He is a leader from another world, which is called Atazam, which is kind of like a very high-tech kind of world. Everything they have is like really trippy, super sci-fi things going on over there. And he enters the Cephiro. He invades Cephiro along with a few other characters in order to use the power of Cephiro to help his own land. But later on we discover that there are other reasons as to why he wants to become the new pillar, Monoka. And you might be asking yourself, Melina, you just discussed this little pink thing. Yo, I thought I did too. Let me tell you something. When you find out what Makona, what Makona is, that will trip you, because it tripped me. And I was like, this little fluffy cream puff delicious looking thing, is that? What? It was some mess. It was not a mess, but it was some shit. And I expected that at all. And I thought it was a really interesting sort of thing, because you're so used to this kind of like fluffy, like Kira Barros. And they told you if Kira Barros ended up being what Makona is, you'd be like, what? It's that. Makona is not just another pretty little cute face. So I really was interested in that character. It was amazing. So there are many themes, there are many kind of minor subtextual themes in Magic Knight Rayearth. I think that there's a lot of things about friendship, about love, duty, responsibility. All of those things, while important, are kind of secondary to the major theme. And a lot of those things we've seen in other sort of Magic Girl series. There's always, you know, these three girls coming together, becoming friends, the love between them, the love between other people. There's like little minor romances overall. But I think what makes Rayearth stand out, what makes Rayearth number 6 and not number 7 or number 8, which was kind of teetering on, but what makes this series number 6 in my book is the discussion of the pillar system. Now, to kind of understand the pillar system, I have to tell you this is not spoilery, but it's just kind of background information to understand what the point of this system is and why it exists. I don't think it's spoilery, because you don't really know what it means right now, but I think it's important to understand what it means. When this world, Cephiro, was created, it was created to be a haven, to be uncorrupted like Earth, because when God made it, God became corrupted, and so God made Cephiro to be a better place. And so the pillar system was put in so that one person was responsible for all the balance in the world, and therefore a bunch of other people could not come and corrupt that world the way that Earth was corrupted, because so many people had individual will and could change and warp the world to make it how they wanted it. And so that one person was put in there as a safety net, as a good thing in the eyes of God, as a way to protect this new world, the new Eden that they had created. The problem is that by doing this, you strip one person of their free will. The pillar systems make it so that you, as the pillar, are not allowed to basically connect with other people on an emotional level, because it's kind of like, it's very Sith, you know, very like attachment leads to dark side kind of thing. It's very much that kind of same feeling, that if you have relationships and love, you put other people on a pedestal. Therefore, you can't love everyone equally. Again, childlike emperors from the Never-Ending Story. You know, when you care about people, you put people on certain levels, and there'll be people you like, people you hate. As the pillar, you're not allowed to have those kind of feelings and emotions. And so the very idea of there being one person in charge that can determine so much is seen as a bad thing. The idea of there being almost a god on Earth is seen as a horrible thing, because that responsibility is not meant for any one person. And that despite Earth being corrupted or whatever, free will is important. Eden is a paradise, but it is not a real world. And if you put all that pressure on one person or two people, you are basically telling them that they are not allowed to feel. And in the second part of the series, this comes in very plainly. You see other people, you know, arguing about what the system means, how it works, what the repercussions are to different people. It's a very, very, very philosophical kind of series in that sense, and that's why I think that you have to read it as a whole, because when you read the first chunk of Rayearth, like I would say up to about here, I mean, up to the middle, up to like towards the ending part, it's good. I mean, it is a solid magical girl series. It combines things about, you know, RPG, fantasy, sci-fi, mecha, all these kind of things. It's so many different genres blended together in a very seamless way, and at that level, it is still a good story. If it wouldn't have the rest of the stuff, it would probably have end up like being 8 on my list. It might have been 8, and I would have bumped something else up. But instead, The last bit and the second part of the series really offers really deep questions. It makes you think a lot. And I think that use of the story kind of lifts it up above mediocrity to me, as well as it being more magical girly than some of the other things on this list. I love Rayearth for what it decides to say about how we view society, and how, as much as we think there are problems with ours, we wish we could have like one person who could quick fix it. Like, if, like, say you had a Superman with great power to do those kind of things, is that what you want? Do you want to be governed by one person who is infallible and perfect, or do you want to have your own decisions be made? Should there be one person who makes everything stable and they lose everything? Does the good of that outweigh the good of that one person? Is it okay to make one person suffer if everyone else is happy? It's that kind of idea, and I think it's very interesting and very compelling, and I think that that's what makes Rayearth number 6. That's what makes it a really good Magic Girl series. You know, it's not as good as what I think the top 5 is, which is above it, but I think that what puts it at 6 rather than 8 is that it asks those kind of deep questions, it challenges that, and it makes its own decision for itself, which is exactly what the book should do, because that's what the whole point is. And I think that it makes it a really interesting, engaging, well-rounded series. The other thing that is not so much a theme, but an aspect that I liked about the narrative was that, to a degree, after the adventures that the girls have in Cephiro, they suffer PTSD. They have serious issues reconnecting with their new world, with their home, technically, now that they've already been there. It's very much like in Lord of the Rings, how like when they return back to the Shire, how things are changed. It's very much, once you've left home, you can't really go back because you have stepped up on your own. You have seen great things. How can you just go back to the farm, you know? Just go back to Kansas. And I think that was just very interesting, because a lot of times it's like, there's no place like home and you're happy. But it's like, no, sometimes you've gone beyond that and you've seen things that you can't unsee and undeal with. And those are going to continuously affect you no matter what you do. So I thought it was just really interesting and very cool to see that being done, especially in Magical Girl series, where big stakes aren't really treated as like PTSD worthy. So I thought that it was a really good touch to have the girls really have conflict and internal dialogue about the changes that they feel, even if for a little while, between going there and then coming back home. Anime versus manga thing. This is just from my research, not from me watching the anime. So you can take it with a grain of salt if you want to agree with me or not. But what I feel is what I see from what I've said and what I've seen from clips I've looked at and what I've read, is that it just kind of like, it does what Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon and any series will do, which is drag out the plot with filler to make room for to just make more money off of it, basically. This series altogether is, hold on, let me double check this. Individually, non-omnibus, were 3 volumes long. So they are very short. And each anime, so the first part of it is 20 episodes. Okay. The second part, Rayearth, 29. And I can tell you right now that unless they're giving Fumi some bomb diggity character development, that is mostly filler and mostly unnecessary. This series is great. I love it. Does not need 49 episodes. Not at all. It's so short. And, you know, as much as I think character is very important, the crux of what this is about does not need the characters to be that developed. You just need to be able to be invested, to care about them, and move the fuck on. You don't need to be this long. It doesn't need to be as long of a series. And then they added stuff with Emerald's background about why she became the pillar. You don't need to know that. Don't care. And then the other thing is with them killing off Priscilla for no reason except to say like, oh, we killed someone, hardcore, Rayearth. No. It just seems silly to me, and I hate when they drag out anime when they just are meant to be short. If your thing is only meant to be 13 episodes, cool. In 20 episodes, they could have done both of these. I'm glad I gave Magic Knight Rayearth a good chance, because I felt like it delivered on levels that I didn't really expect for it to do. I already kind of knew about the twist with Emerald, so that wasn't really a huge shock. But I felt like how everything built up, how you didn't really know what was going on until it was finally there, which is really interesting and really moving as someone who just enjoys narrative craft, to just speak of that. And I love how, even though I don't like mecha, I do appreciate and enjoy how Clamp blended all these things together and really made a really fun, interesting world for this place to for this place to exist in. A lot of times, you know, anime can be so and so with world building, but I feel like in this specific series, the world building was given a lot of good care, and when you see other characters come in, and even though you don't see a lot of them, you feel like you've learned enough about them through just dialogue, how they interact. And I think that's really good storytelling, where you can tell what characters are like and what they're probably gonna be like and what they were probably coming from, or just seeing how they interact with other people. And I think that was really engaging and really interesting to like read. And again, I love how it talked about free will, destiny, what it means to be self-sacrificing. All those things are just really interesting and I think important, especially in Magical Girl series, because I feel like with Magical Girls, there is this expectation of sacrifice. Like, it's cool to kill yourself to save everyone you love, because that's what we're supposed to do. Cool, right? And they don't really talk about how, like, yeah, but that kind of sucks to have one person have the fate of the entire world. And it's almost like, you're the leader. It's like, and I feel like they take a really good time and really good, take really good pacing to really show why this is a problem, how to fix it, and what it really means to have independence and independent thought and responsibility. The only downside of this series is that the characters don't stand out. And I think that Clamp usually is so good with having really bang up characters that it's kind of disappointing. And all the other ones behind it, like Pre-Tier, Petite Princess Yusi, they were all really good Magical Girl anime, but they are very, very strong characters and maybe not so much great plot. So this one has a really good plot, really good narrative, but kind of weak characters, even though I'm usually more of a character person, but I think the plot of this is just so good that it elevates it. But again, of the entire cast, the only characters that really stood out for me were Emerald, Zagato, and Bakota, because Bakota, didn't see that. But anyway, those were the three characters that I think really stood out for me, and I think that the characters in this series were the one weakness, because it wasn't a priority for them. It just wasn't, and you can tell that it wasn't. But I think that overall, the series, you know, does something really good with itself, and this is one of the few mecha-related things that I can tolerate. So I gained something from this, even though I don't really like mecha. So that's my general thoughts on this anime. I hope that if you haven't checked it out, you will check out the manga. It's in 2 parts available. You can probably get it real good on Amazon, so get it. Or you can read it, check it out. I think that it is worth looking at if you like Magical Girl and you like really good plots. If it's weak on characters and you're a really big character person, then I would say skip it, because the characters, besides the 3 I mentioned, like I said before, aren't that glamorous. So thank you for watching. I will have episode 5 and I'll have part 5 installment up ASAP. Promise. It's pretty much done written it. It's just more of getting my other research components done. But yeah, so I'll see you soon. Bye.